Okay, good morning again. Thank you for joining us. The winter is ahead of us, and we've had a few changes to some of our products and services this fall and winter. So I want to go over that today and also give you an update on the winter outlook and where we stand with that and some other winter-related information. So thank you for joining us. We'll get into the presentation. Here's where we're going today. We're going to start out with the NOAA Winter Outlook and talk about what it means for our region, and then go into some product service updates. We will have a question and answer section at the end as well. If something spurs your interest through the presentation, you have a question that pops into your head, you can use the chat feature that you can see in your little GoToWebinar window. There's a little chat feature. You type in your message down there, type in your question, and I'll check that periodically through the presentation, but then at the end, we'll look at that as well and answer any questions that pop up in there. So that's a good way to get your question in there, and then we'll get to it by the end of the presentation, if not sooner. So when we talk about the winter outlook, these Farmer's Almanac and Old Farmer's Almanac come out typically in August, and so that's when the interest really starts to peak. For us, we start to get questions about the winter outlook ahead. NOAA officially posts their winter outlook in October. So I did go back, and these are the current Farmer's Almanac and Old Farmer's Almanac winter outlooks. And for us, very, very cold outlook for both of these sources. So what's the official word from NOAA? Well, La Nina is back. And so if you joined us on last winter's call or were interested in this last winter, we were talking about La Nina. And so La Nina is a pattern of abnormally cool water in the Pacific Ocean, Central Pacific. And this has long-reaching impacts on the weather across the northern hemisphere and even the entire globe. The opposite of La Nina is El Nino, of course, but we've been stuck in a La Nina pattern for a couple winters now, and it looks like a moderate La Nina is forecast this winter. Which was also the forecast for last winter. So you can see the typical La Nina pattern over on the lower right here is for a jet stream that plunges out of Canada down into the Ohio Valley before rebounding and lifting back north again over the northeast or western Atlantic. So that typically places a storm track that favors a wetter than normal winter over the Ohio Valley and warmer than normal temperatures over the mid-Atlantic and southeast states. So La Nina was expected to be the main influence on our weather pattern last winter as well. Last winter, there were some much harder to predict factors that came into play that caused quite a rough winter for parts of the country, including our region, which of course was hit by those ice storms. But everybody remembers the Arctic outbreak that plunged deep down into Texas, and so that was so abnormally cold that it really stuck out like a sore thumb, and that's not typically something that happens in La Nina. So more on that in a minute, but here is the winter outlook as far as precipitation goes. And for our region, the Ohio Valley and Central Appalachians, well, at least the Ohio Valley is expected to see a wetter than normal, or at least the odds favor a wetter than normal winter. And so another winter full of rain and probably some periods of snow and wet weather is highly likely. So I think we do have to monitor the potential for flooding. It's been kind of dry lately, not a lot of rainfall in recent times, so that's good. But as we get deeper into the winter, the odds are that we get a storm track that favors a wetter than normal pattern over the Ohio Valley. And so we'll have to watch out for flooding. I'm going to talk about some flood product changes here in a minute, and then a way for you to monitor rain gauges in your area as well, if that does become a concern. For the West Virginia mountains, eastern panhandle, eastern part of the state there, no real strong signal, so equal chances of above normal, below normal, and normal precipitation there. But the overall trend is for that La Nina pattern to soak the Ohio Valley. As we look at the temperatures, pretty broad scale above normal temperatures are expected throughout the winter. So that's across our whole domain. Pretty high odds for an above normal and abnormally warm winter. And again, this was the case last winter. We were expecting an abnormally warm winter. So what about snowfall? Well, with the abnormally warm temperatures, you can expect that snowfall tends to be below normal during a La Nina winter. Now, it's highly variable. We've had winters that saw a lot of snowfall and above average snowfall, and then we've had winters that were below, but overall it tends to shake out below average snowfall. Now, Arctic outbreaks like we saw last year, ice storms, snowstorms, are extremely difficult to predict inside of 1 week, even more hard to predict 1 to 2 weeks in advance. And so when we're talking about a seasonal timescale like we are with the winter outlook, basically the frequency and number and intensity of these events cannot be predicted on a seasonal timescale. So that NOAA doesn't produce a snowfall outlook for the winter, only the temperature and overall precipitation outlook that I showed you in the previous slides. But as we saw last winter during La Nina winters, there have been some notable winter storms. There was a major storm on New Year's Day, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day in 70-71 that produced up to 2 feet of snow across parts of the region. An Arctic outbreak that I remember quite well in January 1985 that produced some of the coldest temperatures on record across our region. And then we had the cold, snowy month of December 2010, and then, of course, the ice storms of last year. So the moral of the story with this is, even though the prediction is for a warmer than normal winter, that warmer than normal winter can be punctuated with some major winter storms. And so it's important to not let your guard down. Looking further beyond the winter, I did want to point out that there's also a pretty interesting signal for an increased probability of severe weather, including hail and tornadoes, during the spring months following a La Nina winter. So you can see on the graphic on the left, El Nino influence is on the left with a less frequent overall severe weather pattern for our region, and then La Nina influence is on the right. So the greatest differences is over the southern plains and Mississippi Valley, lower Mississippi Valley. But that probability, the little more frequency in tornadoes and hailstorms does extend into our region during the springtime following a La Nina winter. Now, that was not the case last spring. In fact, overall, this year has been seen below normal tornadoes and severe weather overall. So it is variable, but it's something to think about as we move into the spring and beyond, as La Nina starts to lose its influence and we move into the warmer months. So that's all we have for the winter outlook. Again, above normal temperatures are expected, above normal precipitation for much of the region. And so, yeah, there'll be winter storms, there will be snow. I do think we'll have to deal with flooding at some point due to that storm track if everything does pan out with the La Nina having the major influence on our weather. But again, there's a lot of things that come into play like last winter that are much harder to predict. If you're really into with weather, you might hear things called like the Arctic oscillation or the North Atlantic oscillation. These are weather patterns that also influence our weather through the winter, and they're much harder to predict at longer time scales. So we'll be watching that. But that is the overall NOAA winter outlook. So now we move into the product service and updates section. We're going to talk about our winter weather forecast page, some updates there and some very useful information to you, as well as a winter storm severity index and a graphical hazardous weather outlook to gauge winter weather impacts. And we're going to break into a little bit of a flood section here, flood product simplification, and talk about the rainfall monitor. And then we'll jump into a little bit of an alerting section. So we'll talk about snow squall warnings and wireless emergency alerts, and then non-weather emergency message alerting, and a new way to get your iPods and public alerts sent over NOAA Weather Radio. So I wanted to raise your awareness of that. So we'll first talk about the winter weather forecast page. And so every National Weather Service office in our region has a winter weather forecast page that has in-depth information on snowfall and available for you. So you can find this on your local office webpage. Just look for the blue snowflake icon, and I'm going to show you our Weather Service in Charleston page. If you click on that icon, it'll take you to our winter weather probabilistic snow forecast. So there's several menu and tab changes that they've basically been streamlined, so you can find the same information no matter what National Weather Service office you're looking at. Some new graphic packages, so the graphics will look a little bit different, hopefully better than the old graphics. And then something that especially our statewide partners should like and find valuable are statewide graphics for snow and ice accumulation. So I want to go ahead and click on the link here, and I'll send these slides out. They've got dynamic links in it. But I want to go ahead and give you a little run through of the web page. So when you go there, you'll notice the tabs across the top. Now, if there are winter weather headlines in effect, such as a winter storm watch or warning or advisory, then there'll be a tab that pops up that shows you that product and the expected snowfall or ice accumulation forecast right up front. But then you can also click on the other tabs here. So probabilistic snowfall forecast. So the main graphic here is our expected snowfall forecast, but then we also have the potential high end amount and low end amount. We'll give you our best stab of what the forecast is going to be and how much snow is going to fall. But then we'll also show you, based on the overall plethora of computer models out there available, what the high end amount and the low end best reasonable scenarios are for that upcoming winter storm. And so that can help you plan what is the worst case scenario, a reasonable worst case scenario, what is the reasonable best case scenario, depending on the upcoming storm. But then I did want to point out that we do have these graphics on a statewide scale as well. So in addition, you know, if you're over in the eastern panhandle of West Virginia and you go to Sterling's page, you'll find their probabilistic snow pages for their county warning area, but then you can also go to our page and find the information for the entire state of West Virginia. This includes snowfall forecast, ice accumulation forecast, and then we also have 6 hourly snowfall. So you can see how the timing of the storm will progress based on the 6 hourly snowfall forecast and ice accumulation forecast, which are available on a statewide scale. We have onset and end timing graphics. So these will break down the timing of the storm, when we expect impacts to start, and then when we expect the snow or winter storm to end. And so easy to follow graphics there. And then we have some winter storm outlook graphics, which I'll talk about here a little more in a minute. As the snow's falling, you can actually access snowfall reports on this tab, and then look at the medium and long range outlook all the way out to week 2, and some of the climate prediction on the long range outlook tab. So it's all available on the website. Everything pretty much winter related that you need to see is available there. And so I'll go and show, see, we have some Kentucky folks I saw registered. So let's click on the Kentucky link here. So the statewide graphics for Kentucky are hosted by the Louisville office, since they are the state liaison office for the state of Kentucky and work with Kentucky Emergency Management. So you click on the Kentucky probabilistic snowfall forecast there, and you can see a statewide view of the expected snowfall for Kentucky. And same for Ohio. These are hosted on the National Weather Service Wilmington webpage. And so if you click on Ohio here, you can see a statewide snowfall graphic for the state of Ohio. And then Virginia is available on the Wakefield site. So there you go. If you want to see a statewide view of the snowfall, then you can go to those links, and that information is available to you. A little slightly different look this year than previous years, but overall, hopefully some useful information for you when we do get winter weather in the forecast. Now, one of the new products that was produced last year, and I did touch on this during our winter call last year, is the Winter Storm Severity Index. I wanted to highlight this again because we did find a lot of utility for this last year, and I think it's a pretty valuable service that you can use to help plan for winter storms and especially the impact of a winter storm. It's 6 inches of snow that's fluffy and dry has a dramatically different impact than 6 inches of snow that's heavy and weighs down objects. So this is one of the ways that you can go and look at an upcoming winter storm and see exactly what the impacts are, what's going to cause the impact. So I'm going to click on the link here and give you a little demonstration of the Winter Storm Severity Index. So when you go there, you click on the link, and you can find it broken down by days, overall days 1 through 3, or you can click on the individual days up here, day 1, 2, 3. And experimentally this year, they've added a day 4. So 4 days out, you can get this information. But basically, I've got it clicked on the days 1 through 4 overall picture. So this is the overall picture. You can see that there is some impactful snow or winter weather expected, some limited impacts even in the West Virginia mountains here, which you can zoom in. You can see that painting the mountains. So what's causing that to show up? Across the top are the different aspects of that snow that could cause impact. So You can click on the different tabs here. You can see that snow amounts in the mountains over the next couple of days could cause some limited impacts. Snow loads not expected to be an issue. Snow accumulation is not expected to be an issue, but flash freeze could be an issue. So this is something that I've noticed that's really useful to diagnose times when, say, the precipitation is going to end as rain, but then temperatures are going to rapidly plunge below freezing, and it could cause some freezing of roads where water is running across the roads. And that's what's going to be possible tonight in the higher elevations, where temperatures will drop below freezing after the rain ends. So a useful product that you can go to, and there's also a rolling 24-hour display that's now available. And so a lot of good information here. You can actually print maps. You can include these, email these out, and we'll be using these more than likely in some of our briefings this winter to kind of hone in on what's going to be causing the impacts and how impactful an event will be. So there's the link. Again, it'll be available on the slides. You can also get to it from our winter page. I will show you that. So if you go to our winter page and you look at the Winter Storm Outlook and Winter Storm Severity Index, that's an easy way to get to that product. You can click on the map there and access the Winter Storm Severity Index. Another really useful product that has been kind of revamped, we've had it around for a while, it's the Graphical Hazardous Weather Outlook, and we've revamped it this year recently. Made it kind of slicker, more easier to look at on a mobile device, and then also added a statewide graphic as well. So to access this on any of the areas web pages, you can find the little icon there with different weather hazards on it, and click on that or go to the link that's on the screen here, and it will open up our Graphical Hazardous Weather Outlook. So I'm going to show the ones that includes our service area, including Ohio, Kentucky, and Virginia, but also the entire state of West Virginia. And so this is what it will look like when you pull it up. So the features on the left are on a map, and it will default to the overall worst case time period over the next week. And so in this particular example, when I did the screen capture, extreme cold covered the most area and had the greatest impact for this region. So that's what defaulted. But over on the right, you'll notice we call these chiclets. And basically we use green, yellow, orange, red, and then purple to define the risk that those elements have over the next 7 days. So it's an easy, quick way to look and find out what are our main hazards over the next week. And then to get more information, you can actually click on those chiclets. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a demonstration of the current view of this. So when you pull it up, I want to show you that there is a drop-down menu here that you can toggle between just the local service area or the statewide graphic for the state of West Virginia. So I'll go ahead and pull up the entire region here. And you'll notice on the right that we do have a threat of wind today and Friday, and again Monday and Tuesday. And then we have some excessive cold risk later today, tomorrow, and then Monday and Tuesday. So say you want to look and see where the excessive cold risk is on Tuesday. And if you click on that little button there, it will change the map. And so you'll notice that in the mountains, we do have a risk of excessive cold. What does the yellow mean? Well, it means a limited risk. Frostbite and hypothermia may occur with prolonged exposure without proper clothing. As far as the wind goes, what's the wind threat going to be on Tuesday? Again, mainly in the higher elevations and over in the eastern panhandle, we have an elevated wind risk on Tuesday night. What does that mean? Well, it means a limited risk. Breezy conditions could blow away unsecured items and result in hazardous driving conditions for high-profile vehicles. And as you can see, as the colors go up, we have a definition of what that means. So a really handy way to take a peek at this every day and get briefed up on what your risk is for the next week. And this is available. It's updated every couple hours based on the forecast data. So that's our Graphical Hazardous Weather Outlook. Okay, so those are the main products changes that we have as far as winter weather goes. And we'll talk about snow squall warnings here a little later in our alerting section, but I want to shift gears and talk about flood product simplification. And that's due to the fact that we do have that above normal precipitation forecast this winter. So I think we will have to deal with flooding at some point. So I did want to spend a little bit of time on that. There's been an overall consolidation of National Weather Service flood products across the entire National Weather Service this fall. and we rolled that out on November 4th in our office. So the changes are relatively minor, mainly formatting changes, and but one thing that will occur is all flood watches and flash flood watches, we used to issue 2 products depending on the threat, have been consolidated into one, just an overall flood watch. Now the information in the flood watch will still differentiate between whether it's an overall flash flood threat or a flood threat, but the overall product is just going to be called a flood watch. And then once we get into the warning stage, we'll still have the flash flood warnings and flood warnings that we would issue. For offices that issue flood advisories, there used to be several different flood advisories, urban and small stream, or arroyo and small stream, different products there. Those have all been consolidated into one just generic flood advisory product as well. The other change that you'll notice is actually a little bit of a formatting change in the actual flood watch and warning products, where we're going to be adding, simplifying the wording. They're adding topics such as what, where, when, impacts, and additional details. And so those products will be changed. And so if you notice a flood warning or flood watch come out from our office, it'll have those subjects in there that allow you to find the information quite a bit easier. So that's the overall flood simplification, just some minor changes there. Also, that something that was rolled out this year in our office and a few other offices around us, I believe Wilmington has rolled this out and some others, is a rain gauge monitoring tool. And so if you go to our webpage and look under current conditions, mouse over the current conditions menu, a menu will drop down, you'll see rain gauge monitoring. And when you click on that, it will open up our rain gauge monitor. So this is a comprehensive rainfall monitoring tool for all of West Virginia, Southeast Ohio, Northeast Kentucky, and Southwest Virginia. So our entire region plus the entire state of West Virginia. And so it's a dynamic map of gauges for various time intervals all the way up to 72 hours, and with the radar estimated rainfall in the background. So down below the map is a sortable table that allows you to sort by county, by amount, by source. So the rain gauges included in this include all the airport weather stations, the cooperative weather observers that we have across our region, CoCoRaHS observers, those observers that volunteer to report rain and snow every morning, and then also all the iFlows gauges. So this is a great way for you to monitor the iFlows gauges that are available in your county and integrated with all the other observation platforms. So I know the various states typically have their own iFlows monitoring webpage, but you can also get that data in with all the other rain gauges in your county from this rainfall monitoring webpage. And it's really why we created it. We were having to go to Weather Underground, we were having to go to Meso West, to the iFlows, various state iFlows gauge pages to monitor rain gauges. So we put this together mainly for our own benefit, internally monitoring rain gauges, but we also made it publicly available as well. And another addition is Citizens Weather Observer Program. So Weather Underground, if your stations are just available on Weather Underground, they will not show up on this rainfall monitoring. But there is a way, all those weather stations also allow you to report to the Citizens Weather Observer Program. And if you're wanting more information on how to get your gauges onto this rainfall monitoring site through the Citizens Weather Observer Program, you can contact me. I'll send you some instructions. But if you have well-sited weather stations in your county, I know several counties have used grant funds to put up weather stations across their county. I've worked with Cabell County to get their weather stations that they have at their EMS stations onto this system, work with Lincoln County. So if you have gauges that you want to get added to this, they're properly sited, well-functioning gauges, then contact me and I'll tell you how to get them on the Citizens Weather Observer Program. That'll get them into this rainfall monitoring webpage. It'll also get the data into computer models and the various other platforms that Weather Underground alone won't get that data into. So I wanted to bring that up, and I'll show you a little demo here since we actually do have some rain occurring across our region. So when you pull it up, it will default to the 1 hour time scale. You'll notice up across the top are various tabs. Also, we've included the flash flood guidance. So how much rain, if it occurs in 1 hour, is going to cause flash flooding? Well, you can see on the map here in our service area. It's only available for our service area right now, not for the entire state of West Virginia. But you can see that flash flood guidance in the 1 hour, 3 hour, and 6 hour intervals. but then you can go and look at the actual observed values by clicking on the tabs. Down below the map, and this is dynamic, you can zoom in, by the way. And so if you want to zoom into your county, zoom into Mason County, we can see that there's been some light rainfall there. And then down below the map is a sortable table. So say you just want to look at Barber County rainfall. There you can see that we've had a little bit of rainfall there. Let's go to Athens County, Ohio, has a whole bunch of CoCoRaHS observers there. So we can see how much rain. You can sort by 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, all the way down to 1 hour. So this is a very useful tool for monitoring rainfall in your area. Check it out. Let us know how you like it, especially during flood events. Let us know if, especially if you have rain gauges in your county that need to be added. I'll let you know a way to do that. And here's a screen capture of some heavy rain we had earlier this year, back in April, and some of the flooding that occurred in the tri-state region. You can see some of the higher amounts there that are captured. So that's Rainfall Monitor and our flood product simplification. Now let's talk about the alerting piece. And I did want to talk about our snow squall warnings. We are still issuing these. We've issued them now for a couple of winters. You can see the criteria there. Snow squalls reducing the visibility to a quarter mile or less, sub-freezing ambient road temperatures or plunging temperatures sufficient to produce flash freezes, and gusty winds and blowing snow. Snow squall warnings will alert on cell phones again this winter. So we will be limiting their issuance between the late evening and the morning rush. We really don't want to wake people up at 3 in the morning to tell them it's snowing outside, because this product is mainly geared towards travel. And so we will focus the snow squall warnings on the interstates and main highways and use special weather statements which will not alert wireless emergency alerts for the rest of the snow squalls. No earlier than next fall, we are expected to add categories to snow squall warnings that will allow us to target WIA activations more appropriately. So that's coming, but probably have some more information on that for next winter. If you're curious what alerts, wireless emergency alerts, what National Weather Service products set those off, here's an activation schedule that's up to date. Tornado warnings, flash flood warnings if the threat tag is considerable or catastrophic. Severe thunderstorm warnings now activate wireless emergency alerts for the first occurrence of a destructive threat tag in the warning. We look back over our climate records, and that'll be a pretty rare occurrence for us. You can think back to the derecho of 2012. That would have been a situation where probably we would have employed this tag and would have set off cell phones to alert for a severe thunderstorm. And then you can see the other products, including snow squall warnings, that will activate wireless emergency alerts. If you want to see the wording that's used in these products, in these alerts, you can click on the link down at the bottom of the screen there on the slide, and that'll take you to show you all the wording that's being used for these. Now, many of you are COGs and can send alerts to iPods through a origination software. Some of them are over on the right, including Everbridge and various other tools. So as a COG, and this is not a FEMA alerting webinar, so I'm just going to hit the high spots here, but as a COG, you have authority to send alerts through iPods to the National Weather Service EAS wireless emergency alerts and a public channel for all other iPods alert users. So I don't know all the various software providers. I've seen Everbridge, I've seen a couple of them, Nixle, how they work. Hopefully you understand how to send those alerts using that system if you are a COG. But I did want to bring up the fact that you can get those alerts on the NOAA weather radio. And so again, the various software products, there may be a switch on there that says distribute to the National Weather Service. It may say NWEM, non-weather emergency message. It may say has collect. If you toggle that on when you're sending your message to the other platforms, your message will be sent to us. And so we will get a notice in our computer system. We will review that alert. We may make adjustments to the text to improve readability. One thing we have to do for Amber alerts that we also put on NOAA Weather Radio is edit, the names. Sometimes names, our computer system has a hard time reading those off, or we may actually have to manually record the message instead of letting the computer voice do it. And we will likely call you, the alert originator, to verify the message is legit to make sure nothing nefarious is going on there. But then we will send it over to NOAA Weather Radio. for the alert duration, and that will get it on NOAA Weather Radio product. So that's another tool that you can use to improve the distribution of your alerts through iPause. So in order to make this as easy as possible and as quickly as possible, we do ask you to prepare ahead of time. Ask your software vendor if they properly populate the requesting agency in the CAP sender name area. That's very important because we need to know who the message is coming from, and we give attribution to that agency. And if it's not populated in the software, then it will come to us, and we may not know who the agency is. Practice, know the knobs, don't wait for an emergency to happen. Know your state EAS plan, those are usually available online, and leverage iPause resources to practice and learn more. And if you would like to run a full test, including the National Weather Service activation piece, reach out to me. I have some instructions that I can give you on how to make that happen, and we'd love to test it out. We've not had this happen yet. This is pretty new service. It's just been rolled out over the past 6 months, I believe, and so we've not been able to practice this yet. But as you're practicing, if you'd like to incorporate us into that, let's reach out to me, and we'll make that happen. Otherwise, if you're not a COG or you want more information, of course, you can go to this FEMA website. Just type in iPause and read up on it. And they're offering webinars as well periodically that talk about this and how to properly set up your alerts and alerts. So those are pretty handy. So we'll wrap things up here with a couple of additional slides. I wanted to talk about CoCoRaHS. I've mentioned this before, but this is a rainfall and snowfall reporting network. It's a network of volunteers, and they're extremely valuable to us. We have the ability to estimate rainfall. I showed you the Rainfall Monitor, all the automated gauges, the iFlows gauges around our region. But we also just need human beings to measure the rain, and especially the snow. We have no automated way to measure snowfall. We rely on human beings to measure it and call those reports into us. So CoCoRaHS is a great way to do that, to get those rainfall and snowfall reports to us on a daily manner. We need more observers. You can see the map on the right. We need observers in our area, especially in several counties. We've got some counties like Athens and Doddridge and Putnam and Cabell and others that have pretty good observers, but we always need more. And so you can sign up fire departments, water plants, DOH garages. There's also a program that's tailored just for schools with lessons, plans, and teaching aids in it. So you could Google CoCoRaHS for schools, and it'll come up with all the information there. And so I think that's a really neat program to get kids involved in being a citizen scientist, and those reports actually help us and tremendously. And it does also for FEMA disaster declarations for winter storms. It's very important to have trained observers in your county, and CoCoRaHS observers are considered trained observers by FEMA. And so their reports in the event of a serious winter storm that does threaten records and you want to get reimbursed for, these observers do meet that criteria for FEMA. So if you, again, we're available for more help on this, to get observers signed up and trained up, but the website there at the top of the screen will cover this in more in depth. We would also, I want to bring up the fact that we monitor webcams. We have all the DOH webcams. Any public-facing webcam, we have a system at our office that allows us to monitor these really efficiently. One of our forecasters, John Peck, created this program. And so if you have webcams in your county, I know a lot of counties, they have webcams at your 911, at your transmission towers or wherever. If we could get access to those, it would be fantastic. We use them, especially in the winter, for situational awareness purposes, to know where it's snowing, where it's sticking, and they're just tremendously useful to us in our operations. So if we could get access to those cameras, that would be great. We would keep them internal. If you don't mind for us to use them, we will put that information on there, and we can sometimes use them in social media posts to illustrate where the snow's falling. But most of the time we keep them internal, and we just use them for our situational awareness purposes. So there's an email there on the slide. You can contact John Peck or myself. And again, we really appreciate any webcams that you may be using that we can have access to. And finally, I wanted to solicit snowfall reports during and after winter storms. They are invaluable to us, and the more reports we get, the better situational awareness we have. And as you know, we're always in the battleground here in the Ohio, Mid-Ohio Valley, Central Appalachians, Eastern West Virginia Panhandle. It's always a winter storm mix. It seems like we're rarely just one or the other as far as precipitation type. So The more information we have on what's occurring and how much snow and ice has occurred, the better. We've made it easy to get those reports to us. Just go to your website, your local National Weather Service website, look for the green icon, the little figure looking at the thunderstorm. Click on it, and it'll provide you the information on how to get your report to the National Weather Service office. After we receive your report, we transmit it as a local storm report, which informs the media and the public of the information that you provided us. We keep that information for verification. It's just very useful to us, and we adjust our forecast based on that information. They're used in storm summaries and can be used to determine disaster declaration in major storms as well, which I talked about before. So please, as winter unfolds, and if you get those snow reports, even if you're home, if you're off on the weekend and it's snowing, let us know how much you're getting. It's very valuable information to us. And so this is how you get to it. Click on the little green icon, and that's our page. We have a public way to submit reports and we also have a spotter hotline that we give out to trained weather spotters. Of course, we're on Facebook, Twitter. We have an email account. Most offices do that have an email account that if you're not on social media, then you can submit a report that way. And then there's also a mobile app that allows you to tell us whether it's snowing or raining or freezing rain or whatever at your location, and it's very valuable information for us. Down at the bottom of the page here, we also have what do we need to know about, how to properly measure snow, various tips on sending reports to us. So that's a resource, and you are a resource to us as you're out and about and in the winter and sending those reports on to us. So that's all I have, and I did want to open it up to questions. Let me look here to see if we have any questions. I don't see any in the webinar itself. So if you have a question, if you would like to ask a question, what you can do is you can raise your hand in the little program there. Click on the raise your hand feature, and it will let me know that you have a question, and I can unmute your phone or unmute your microphone there. So I'll look, see if we have a question. Looks like we might have one here. Let's see, John Hoffman, I have unmuted you, I believe. Looks like you're self-muted, so I don't know if you have a question, John. Okay, I'm not hearing anything. Okay, good, gotcha. Okay, I'm not seeing any. Okay, Keith Gano, let me see here. I have unmuted you, sir, if you want to.
Hey, Tony, you've already answered my question. I'm in Mercer County, so I'm in the Blacksburg area, but forecast area, but you answered the question there briefly.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, anybody else have a question? Randy Feltner, I'm going to unmute you. You might have to unmute. There you go.
Hi, Tony. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good. I was wondering if that winter storm severity index that you showed, do you all publish that information post-event?
There is an archive that I can access. It's not publicly available. And that website does update in real time. So, as a storm's going on, you'll lose what has happened before. But if you're interested in maybe a past winter storm, I may be able to get you the graphics for that if that's what you're angling for there.
Okay, yeah, I'm more interested in the real-time information, so I'll have to check that out on that link that you've got for it.
Yeah, it's been useful to us. I think you'll like that product. Okay, I'm going to scroll down through. See, Stephen Allen, I'm going to unmute you.
Hey, Tony, Steve Allen here out of Jefferson County. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you, Steve.
Okay. You were talking about notifying our closest weather service office, which for us would be Sterling. But I'm just wondering, and I have not seen it before, but for our E-team, and are you aware of E-team, what the use of E-team is and so forth?
Yeah, so E-team, I'm in there. I don't know about anybody from Sterling, but what typically happens in winter storms is I'm in E-teams, and so I'm accumulating any information that I find in there from the state of West Virginia, and I send it to the appropriate person. So if I see something from you, if there's an impact or a report in there, I will forward that to Chris Strong over in Sterling. So that's how that typically works. I'm also sharing that information with the Fusion Center and other people. So that's how that typically works. I'm kind of the intermediary there.
Okay, because and that would take one step out of it for us if we're on the emergency management side of the house. If we're sending in an E-team report reporting damage, whatever. Well, I'll use damage in the event of severe wind damages and things like that, or flooding, or now we're talking toward winter storms. If we're sending in reports to the state on E-team, and then locally here, we'd be following it up with reports down to Sterling, to whoever the hydrologist on call, or not on call, but staffing the Weather Service office down there. But I'm just wondering, and I think you've already answered part of that by saying you're monitoring it, and if you see something for Sterling or for Blacksburg or Pittsburgh or whoever, that you go ahead and forward it on to them. And I'm just wondering, would it be advantageous to go ahead and include you on the notifications? That way you get an email saying, hey, there is a E-team report or whatever, instead of you having to, scan it all the time to see what's going on. Of course, if you want to stay up all night, that's fine too.
No, that would be tremendously helpful. And I would love to be able to get the other offices maybe set up in E-teams to where, you could include, like you would include Sterling, maybe their operations account, and they would be notified of that report. So that's I know that's getting everybody to do that is going to be a kind of a chore, but that would be very helpful. And some counties do include me. I know, so I get the emails, but yeah, if there's somebody that I could talk to make that happen, for the entire state and get those contacts put into E-teams, that would be very helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know we've got a lot of people from West Virginia on the call with you, so perhaps one of them would know who, whether it would be Sean Dunbrack or whoever, maybe taking care of all the E-team stuff. But that would certainly, like you said, that would make it a little bit easier and give a heads up. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Steve. And let's see, I'm gonna roll down through here. I saw one more question. Tracy Jackson, I believe you may have a question. I see a question mark by your name there. I've unmuted you. You might have to unmute yourself. I'll give it another few seconds here. Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so let me go back up, see if I missed anybody. And then I'll look at the chat box here. Okay, I'm not seeing any more hands up. Let's see if I missed anything. See Randy's question, I got that one. And then Keith, yep, I already got that. All those changes take place for Blacksburg as well. Okay, so I don't see any more questions. I'll give it one last minute here. If you have a question, you can put your hand up or type it in the chat box. Otherwise, I will end this webinar and I will get the recording and slides out to everybody that maybe missed it. But thank you all for your attendance, and I hope it was helpful to you, and enjoy the winter ahead.